Congratulations to Rob Flores and Falcon Spotlight, nominated for Best Public Service Program by the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System.
Everything you want to hear from the voice of Cerritos College, WPMD on the Nets, where people make a difference.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Falcon Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, here at WPMD Studios, located at Cerritos College, Norwalk, California. At this time, I would like my guest to please introduce herself.
Hi, good morning, Rob. This is Leticia Vasquez, and I am a director at Central Basin Municipal Water District.
Excellent. Tell me about your duties.
Well, as a director to a water board, I'm responsible for providing water actually providing a supplemental supply or an additional supply of water to 22 cities in LA County, and small water companies, and also small mutual companies.
Perfect. And when do the meetings occur?
Our meetings? Oh, I thought you were taking a picture.
I know, it's video too.
Actually, our meetings are held on the fourth Mondays of every month at 10 a.m. And our district headquarters is located at 6252 Telegraph Road in the City of Commerce.
And
I actually want to add, Rob, that our meetings are also available online. They are available at www.centralbasin.org, and all of our meetings are uploaded to the website 24 hours after they're held. So I really encourage you to log on and visit our website and watch some of our meetings so that you can see firsthand the business that's being conducted on your behalf at Central Basin.
Perfect. Now, I always like to start off the show as well with getting my guest story of, their journey from school, who were they active in, what degrees they pursued, and so on. Can you tell me about that?
Sure, I'd be glad to share that with you. As an undergraduate student, actually, I graduated from Linwood High School. I'm a Linwood native. I also attended St. Pius X High School in Downey. And high school was a lot of fun for me. In fact, I always say that I think it was probably too much fun because I probably didn't focus as much as I should have on preparing for college. But, I did good enough to be able to apply. And I applied to several Cal State campuses, and I was accepted to actually all of them. And I chose to attend Cal State Long Beach because I had a sister that was already there, and she was very active in a Latina sorority, which I also became active with when I was in high school. So it was kind of a natural pathway for me since I already had relationships there and my sister was there. So I attended Cal State Long Beach. I majored. Actually, I didn't end up declaring a major until my junior year when I was forced to declare. But I declared. I really kind of reflected on the classes that I really enjoyed, and I noticed that the classes that I really enjoyed were courses that I had taken in criminal justice. And I had a very interesting experience in my classes with my professors. And so as I looked at my transcripts, I noticed that I had A's in all of my criminal justice classes. And I was also very much interested in the law. And I decided to major in criminal justice. I earned my Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. And I was a working student. I worked part-time, had a number of jobs as a teacher's aide for LA Unified. I also worked for a local battered women's shelter my last 2 years in college, which also really paved the way for me to make a decision about majoring in criminal justice. We actually it's a local organization called Sukasa Family Crisis and Support Center, and I worked on weekends. I worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, basically staffing a 24-hour hotline that helped women that had been victims of domestic violence. We ran not only the 24-hour hotline, but we also ran, and it still exists today, a emergency domestic violence shelter for women who were trying to escape their situations. We took them in at all hours of the day. They're open 365 days a year, providing services to women, and I'm really proud of the work that I did there. Again, that helped decide my major. After I finished my undergraduate degree, I continued working. I come from a working class family. My parents couldn't really afford to send me to college, so I had to, work to help finance my education. And after graduating from Cal State Long Beach with my degree in criminal justice, I took a job with another feminist organization, the Young Women's Christians Association in the city of Compton. And I always knew I wanted to go back to my community and invest my career in helping to uplift it. I felt that I benefited bountifully from all of the opportunities that were provided to me by the community as a whole. And so I worked for the YWCA, had a really great experience with the organization. We, through an organization called the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, we were instrumental in passing Megan's Law after 3 years of trying, which is a law that requires all sex offenders to register at their local police department so that their communities can track and monitor where they're living. And so that was a very powerful experience for me. I learned that any individual can impact public policy, and that really led to my next decision, my next educational endeavor, which was pursuing a master's degree in public policy and administration. So I went back to school as I worked for the YWCA, worked on my master's degree, and at the end of that, I actually left the YWCA to teach locally at Linwood High School. And at that time, the city of Linwood was in transition politically, and there were lots of issues facing our local government. And so I was asked by some of our residents to, I was recruited actually to run for city council at the time, and I ran for office. I was elected to serve on the city council, and actually at that time I had the pleasure of serving for about 4 years, and it wasn't until after that that I decided to go back to school and pursue actually a doctorate degree in education, and also a master's degree in education, which is what I have my second master's in from Pepperdine University. And that's pretty much been my educational pathway. It's been great. I've really enjoyed being a student. I love learning, and it's really one of the things that I also enjoy about being an elected official, is always being in a position to learn something new issues, new topics, new research, all of that good stuff. So education is doesn't just happen in a classroom. I consider myself a lifelong learner. I'm always learning. And I certainly encourage, every student to embrace that concept because really that's what we are, is we're lifelong learners. You never stop learning.
We'll be right back after these public service announcements.
Hi, I'm Silos from the New Jams Radio Hour.
I'm Utao from Asian Pop Hour.
Hi, I'm Justine from Meet Me on Main Street.
You can help support WPMD.
And it's easy.
Just visit our website, WPMDonthenet.com.
Once you get there, click on the Amazon.com banner near the top of the page.
And that'll take you to Amazon.com. Then,
As you can
shop
see.
like always do. WPMD will get a percentage of your purchase, and so will the Cerritos College Foundation.
And it won't cost you anything extra.
It's a great way to help
Jump in.
WPMD.
Get all those great bargains at the same time.
Remember, just go to
Because I have a long
WPMDonthenet.com.
story.
Click on the Amazon banner and start shopping.
It's your way to make a difference for the
I
place
heard,
where people make a difference.
the interview that you did
WPMD on
with
the net.
Jerry.
And thanks.
Yeah,
We
that was really
appreciate
good.
it.
Happy shopping and
Isn't he
thanks a bunch.
good?
Yeah, he had a lot to say.
Didn't he? Yeah.
Read this one now. For all its musical contributions, America has made its mark with jazz, the hot jams, and the cool licks. Armstrong, Mingus, Brubeck, and Miles. The whole spectrum is presented each week with the insight and passion on WPMD's longest-running series, The Jazz Lounge. Join Anthony and Lisa every Thursday night at 7 Pacific for 2 hours of jazz, big band, and lounge music on the best of Jazz Lounge only on WPMD, where people make a difference.
I'm Marlene, and I'm lucky. I have macular degeneration. That's when the blood vessels in your eyes leak, and you can see blind spots in front of you. Eventually, you can go blind. Smokers are a lot more likely to get macular degeneration, and I smoked. I'm lucky because there's a treatment for it. Every month, I sit in a chair with my eyes held open by a retractor. Then the doctor takes a needle and injects medicine right into my eyes. The first time the needle went in, it sounded like an egg cracking. Every time I feel that needle in my eyeball, I wonder why I ever put that cigarette in my mouth. My tip is, smoking wasn't worth going through all this.
She sounds horrible.
And I'm the lucky one.
Smoking can cause macular degeneration. You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT NOW. A message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
And welcome back to the Falcon Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, here at WPMD Studios, located at Cerritos College, Norwalk, California. And ladies and gentlemen, remember that Falcon Spotlight has a fan page on Facebook. It is Cerritos College Falcon Spotlight. You can also email me at robert06flores@gmail.com. Now remember, folks, for those of you who don't know what Falcon Spotlight is all about, I feature different leaders, community leaders, elected officials, sometimes even students, faculty, administrators, and so forth, and to get their story to inspire students. Because you never know when a student could be listening in and, they could relate to a particular guest and, it could be anything. It could be maybe they majored in a particular field and they're like, oh, wow, it's interesting to find someone's story. That's always something that you want to look for online, especially when you're trying to find out what path you want to pursue. And, being that we have a variety of mix here at WPMD, actually some of our talent has been recognized, and I'm so eager for the 5th of March, as all of us, quite a few of us, and the station as a whole has actually had some finalist spots in the Intercollegiate Broadcast System Golden Microphone Awards. I believe some of the categories were most innovative, most creative, best sports talk show program. Falcon Spotlight here got a best public affairs nomination for a finalist spot. I'm super excited. Falcon Spotlight is competing against 5 other universities, and you know, I was impressed with, you know, Googling some of the competition and, oh wow, there's so many radio stations out there, and I just want to say, you know, as a host for a public affairs show, you know, I think one of the things that makes it interesting too is when the host tries to get a better understanding of what they're talking about. Like I was curious, you know, after every time I was having a guest, I'd love to go ahead and you know, do more research, and I started off getting involved with Block Watch, and then I became a Block Watch captain, and then I joined the park advisory for my city, and then my very own, since we last talked, once I said I last talked with my guest, you know, we were talking about commissions and stuff, and I actually got appointed and approved by my own city council to be a city commissioner for the Traffic, Parking, and Public Safety Commission. So I'm very excited for all that. You know, I try to bring you guys as much as I can of insight from, you know, people that have already been in the fields and so forth, and you know, they help provide tips for me and you. And to further talk about that, you know, I'd like my guests to you know, explain the importance of commissions.
Commissions are very, very important to all of our communities in not just Linwood, in California and our nation, because our commissions are really the people in the community that help advise the elected officials about issues that are important to them. And, you know, yours is really a great example. You're on the Park Advisory Commission. And as you know, our community, the city of Linwood, has for many years, you know, lacked park space. And so now, you know, your commission is tasked with the responsibility of giving the elected officials, the city council, and also the other elected officials that represent us in our area, you know, giving them recommendations on what you as a citizen feel needs to happen so that our needs, our park needs as a community could be met. And so I thank you for your service. Like I had mentioned to you before, I started off as a commissioner. My commission was the Public Safety Commission. I think it had a lot to do with the work that I was doing at the time with the YWCA. And I just want to, you know, congratulate you also, Rob, for all of the wonderful work that you do, not just in the community, but outside. You know, here, congratulations on your nomination. I really look at you and your experience, and I think about me and my pathway and how I, you know, really always reached out to people, you know, older people that were doing things that I wanted to do. And just like you know, I always reached out and I wanted to be involved with them. I wanted to get feedback from them. And that helped me in turn grow and helped me learn about other career paths and learn about how people, you know, create their pathways to where they are. So keep up the good work. You're awesome. I look forward to seeing you as a council member one day, or in whatever other capacity, leadership capacity, you know, you choose to you know, to veer into. Yeah, good job, and you know, we're here to support you.
So you had mentioned also, you know, working with people that have, you know, been involved with like domestic violence and stuff. And I'd like my audience to know, you know, there's also so many different forms of abuse. Sometimes it could be verbal and stuff like that. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. In fact, one of my jobs, I had an opportunity not just to work with the victims, but I also worked with the perpetrators. Because as I began to grow professionally, I realized that you have to educate both sides. So part of my job was to teach people about the various types of abuse that, you know, exist. Physical abuse, you know, is the most obvious because, you know, you can see the bruises and the scars from that. But also mental, you know, and emotional abuse. You have financial abuse. You know, people will try and take advantage of you financially when you're involved in relationships. So you have the various forms of abuse. And the other thing that I spent a lot of time doing was teaching people about the cycle of violence and, you know, how the cycle kind of goes full circle when you're involved in an abusive relationship. And if I can talk a little bit about that, it starts off with the honeymoon stage, where everything is, fine and dandy, and, everyone is happy. And then problems begin to brew. It transitions into the tension building stage, where the problems begin to happen. You begin to get uncomfortable because your partner, whoever the batterer is, because now you have relationships where women are the batterers. You notice that the batterer is a little uncomfortable and edgy and kind of snappy sometimes, and that's the tension building phase. And then you have the battering phase, which is when the batterer physically, lashes out. If it's physical abuse, if it's emotional abuse, when they're verbally lashing out, denigrating you, calling you names, and that's the battering phase, and then it starts all over again with the honeymoon phase, where the person is forgiving, after he or she has battered you, they apologize, they will do everything and anything they can to make you feel good about yourself. Sometimes it's buying gifts, sometimes it's showering you with compliments, and then the cycle continues again with the tension building phase. So, battering is more common. Abuse in relationships is more common than we think it is, and not a lot of people like to talk about it. But I think it's important for people to be able to know that there's help out there. There's a domestic violence hotline that is a national hotline that you can always call for help if you are a victim.
And also, I think one of the things people also need to realize also is, even at school, K-12 system, sometimes there's always bullying and stuff, and I think one of the newer ones also has been like using social media and people like bullying another student. Tell us about that too, the cyber bullying.
Yeah, actually, there's been legislation recently, and even up to 10 years ago, Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, I remember when she represented the Southeast, she launched this big anti-bullying campaign to help educate folks, and she passed legislation at the time to bring funding to schools to help address the problem, because it is a huge problem, in our elementary and junior high, and really in our where I've seen it most as a teacher and as an educator is in the middle schools, like 7th through 9th grade is probably where I've seen it most, and where people have turned their head to it most. And when I say people, I mean students. Now, I think with all the awareness and education and the hotlines that people have and the laws that are being passed to help protect, kids, there's more awareness, and I think that's always, a good thing that people are bringing more awareness to that. I think there needs to be more awareness to that, because it leads to other things like, suicide and other problems, emotional, like really long-lasting emotional and psychological problems that, can carry on into adulthood with a lot of young people if they don't get the help that they need.
And what are some tips for the students?
Well, probably the most important one is tell someone. Talking about not just bullying, but any form of abuse, as a young person is really hard. And I think that's probably the most important tip I can give is they have to tell someone. If it's another friend, which, that friend could help by telling an adult, or calling an anonymous hotline.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important thing for students to remember is you're not crazy for having like seek therapy. I think that's like a stereotype people assume that if they see a therapist, it's because they're loony or something.
Yeah, I that's actually when I learned that, you know, people do frown upon, you know, therapy, and the assumption, especially in our Latino culture, you know, we always hear our parents, pues no estoy loca, you know, I'm not crazy, and we assume, yeah, we have all of these preconceived notions about, you know, therapists, and in fact, you know, therapists are there to help. And they're there to be a confidential, kind of independent ear to listen and help you through the challenges. Because let's face it, we all have challenges every day of our life, you know, and sometimes they're compounded by abuse, you know, drugs, alcohol, and other, you know, things that may occur in our life. But I think, you know, that it's always important for us to have that professional ear.
And for tips for students that are interested in being educators, what was your experience like to take the journey to become a teacher?
You know, I have had a great experience in education. I've taught from K through 16, and I still teach in the community college system now. So I started teaching. You know, I started off in education as a TA, like I was telling you, as a teacher's aide, and when I started teaching in K through 12, I realized that I really enjoyed working with young people, and that I wanted to help them navigate, you know, the education system. So, I, you know, as I mentioned, I taught for Linwood Middle School. I taught in Linwood Unified for a couple of years, and after I got elected to the city council, I left teaching to work for a member of the legislature. And after the member termed out of office, I knew that I was going to return to education because it's really my passion. You know, I have benefited bountifully from the opportunities that I've had as a student, and I just feel like education is our foundation for building ourselves up, and so when I went back to education after my term in the legislature, I started teaching in the community college system, and so I just have had a really good time. I also teach for National University. I teach graduate level, courses in public administration for people that are earning their master's degrees in public administration. So I've had a great career in it. I've enjoyed, you know, teaching people how to learn the theories and the professional practices that are necessary, you know, in their professions, the tools that they need to be successful professionals, yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
And then going back to you know, the water, you know, for our audience that aren't aware about the process and so forth of how we get our water, you know, as the host of the Falcon Spotlight here, and you know, having a nomination for the Best Public Affairs Show, I think, you know, like I said before, as a host, I think it's important to get an understanding of the topics that you're discussing and so forth. And the last time that we spoke, you know, we talked about the Central Basin, and this time I actually got to go on one of the trips, and it was pretty cool because I didn't realize, you know, how much technology goes into having our water come here. You know, and like going to those trips and seeing areas where you know, the machines, like there's certain areas where you have to wear like ear gear to and stuff like that. Tell me about the facilities.
Well, California has one of the most complicated, water systems in the nation. Over the years, we have built this massive infrastructure, and you were an invited guest to a couple of the facilities. You were able to see firsthand, how much of a responsibility it is and such a big job to import water, from the Colorado River, from Diamond Valley Lake, it's a huge responsibility. Our agency, the Metropolitan Water District, we manage and operate all of the infrastructure that we use to import the water from the Colorado River. Really, we live in a desert. LA is a desert, and we don't have a lot of water. So we have to bring in the water from the Colorado River and Diamond Valley Lake, and we have to make sure that it meets all of this, the safe and clean water drinking standards that, we have here. And so it goes through a whole system, and it travels, miles, hundreds of miles to get here. And it also costs a lot of money. And I think one of the things that we take for granted often is that, all we have to do is open up our tap and we get clean water. And, we use clean drinking water to water our lawns. We use clean drinking water to water our dishes, to wash our dishes. We use clean drinking water to wash our clothes. And we really need to change the way that we think about water, because we can't continue to sustain ourselves and the water supply, the limited water supply that we have, if we continue to use our drinking water that way. So we do a lot of education to help folks learn about the realities. Every time I go back to Mexico, and I was just recently there, people still have to go to get water at the fuentes de agua that they have in the small towns that don't have faucets going through their homes. They have to get up in the morning, take their buckets, and go and bring their water in. And even then, it's not clean. Like, they have to boil it, right, for it to be clean. So I think we need to really, be more, conscientious of our water usage, and try and change how we use, our water, so that we are not wasting it.
And also, tell me about how last year the cities were asked to conserve water and stuff.
Yeah, actually, the governor declared, he passed signed an executive order declaring a drought, and he ordered that every city in California conserve 21% of